in every empire that ever rose. Trust was the crack that brought it down. The enemy never comes holding a sword. They come holding your hand. Machiavelli didn't warn kings about armies. He warned them about people. Because the ones you trust the most are the ones who learn exactly where to strike. The story of human downfall isn't written in wars or invasions. It's written in whispers, dinners, and alliances that began with a smile. Every betrayal begins with trust. And every empire, from Caesar's Rome to the digital kingdoms of today, has fallen because someone believed the lie of loyalty. Machiavelli understood this truth before psychology ever named it. He didn't study the battlefield. He studied the nature of man. And what he saw wasn't noble. It was predictable. Let's talk about loyalty. Loyalty, to the average man, sounds sacred, a symbol of morality and brotherhood. But to the strategist, loyalty is a contract signed in convenience and broken by opportunity. Machiavelli wrote that men are loyal until the danger passes. When the winds shift, they will betray you not because they hate you, but because it's safer to do so. Consider Caesar, the man who conquered Gaul, who built an empire out of ambition and blood, wasn't defeated by an army, but by his own senate, his friends. Brutus didn't strike because of hatred. He struck because loyalty no longer served him. That's what Machiavelli meant when he said, "Men are ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, and covetous." To him, loyalty was not an emotion. It was a calculation. The problem is most people want to believe loyalty is eternal. They seek comfort in illusions. But the Machiavellian mind accepts that loyalty lasts only as long as mutual benefit does. When that balance breaks, the knife appears. Do you know who was the greatest manipulator in history? The greatest manipulators in history never looked dangerous. They looked harmless, because power rarely announces itself. It disguises itself as kindness. The predator doesn't roar, it studies. It mirrors your tone, your morals, your pain, until you feel safe. Then, when the moment comes, it turns your own trust into a blade. Think of Rasputin, the mystic who seduced the Russian royal family. He healed their son, dined at their table, prayed with their queen, until he became the invisible hand guiding an empire. He didn't storm the palace, he charmed his way in. And that's the modern manipulator's method, too. They wear empathy like a mask. They study what makes you feel seen. They praise your morals, your kindness, your dreams, not because they share them, but because they know that's how to control you. Machiavelli would have called it strategic empathy, the ability to sense emotions not to comfort, but to leverage. And it's this empathy, weaponized, that blinds even the strongest men. To understand betrayal, you must first understand why men betray. Machiavelli, exiled from Florence, wrote The Prince not as philosophy, but as survival. He saw firsthand how men would promise loyalty at dawn and sell it by dusk. To him, goodness was not the default nature of man. Self-interest was. He observed that morality shifts with circumstance. A man may be honest when weak, but give him power, and he'll redefine honesty itself. That's why Machiavelli warned rulers never to rely on virtue, but on structure. Don't depend on people's promises. Depend on their fear, their need, their incentives. Because people change, but hunger doesn't. Look at Florence, his own city. Alliances collapse not because of evil, but because of calculation. Today's ally becomes tomorrow's rival when his ambition outgrows yours. Even in our era, this pattern repeats. The corporate mentor who praises your talent but sabotages your rise. The friend who applauds your success until it makes him feel small. It's all the same psychology. Envy disguised as concern, betrayal disguised as reason. Human nature hasn't evolved. Only the costumes have changed. Why the weak crave trust. The average man needs to believe people are good. Because without that illusion, he feels alone. And loneliness terrifies him more than betrayal does. He'd rather live in a comfortable lie than face the raw truth that everyone, even those closest, are self-interested. This is why trust becomes a narcotic. It soothes insecurity, even as it exposes vulnerability. Machiavelli saw this weakness in rulers who wanted love more than fear. They ruled for approval and lost their thrones. As he said, it is much safer to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. The weak man's obsession with being liked becomes the rope others use to bind him. He mistakes kindness for safety, not realizing that true safety lies in awareness. Trust blinds him, observation protects him, and the world built on appearance feeds that blindness. We live in an age where people trust digital avatars, political promises, and moral slogans, while ignoring human patterns that haven't changed for centuries. Here is the sum rules you must have to follow. The first rule of power: trust no motive. The Machiavellian doesn't reject trust entirely. He redefines it. He doesn't trust people's words or their affection. He trusts their motives. He studies what each person needs, what they fear losing, what they crave most when they look at you. Because once you understand a man's hunger, you know what he's capable of. Every gesture, every compliment, every alliance, all can be decoded by asking, what do they gain from this? Even loyalty can be mapped. Some are loyal because they fear you, some because they need you, and some because betraying you gains them nothing. Yet, the Machiavellian mind stays 2 steps ahead by assuming everyone has an angle. That's not paranoia, it's precision. It's understanding that in the game of power, transparency is a myth. When you assume others act out of pure intent, you play chess blindfolded. But when you see motives clearly, every move becomes predictable. Take the example of Niccolo himself. When the Medici family returned to power, Machiavelli was accused of conspiracy, tortured, and exiled. He had once served Florence loyally, yet loyalty didn't save him. What did he learn from it? That loyalty is remembered only by those who lost power. The powerful remember only utility. From that pain came the prince, a manual not of cruelty, but of clarity. He wrote it not for kings who ruled by faith, but for men who ruled by understanding human weakness. When you finally see this truth, that trust is a transaction, that smiles often hide strategy. Something awakens. It's not cynicism, it's vision. You stop giving trust as charity and start granting it as currency. You no longer seek safety in others. You build safety through perception. You stop expecting loyalty and start measuring incentive. This is the beginning of Machiavellian awareness. The understanding that power doesn't destroy trust. It purifies it. It filters out illusion, exposing what's real. And once you see the world through this lens, betrayal no longer surprises you, because you saw it coming long before it arrived. The masks are everywhere. Behind every smile, an angle. Behind every alliance, an agenda. But Machiavelli didn't teach paranoia. He taught observation. In the next chapter, you'll learn to recognize the 5 faces of betrayal. The types of people who will always trade loyalty for advantage, who will smile as they poison the well, and who will turn your trust into their ladder. The only question is, will you see them before they strike? The deeper you look into people, the more you realize it's not evil that ruins empires. It's pretended virtue. Machiavelli knew that the most dangerous threats don't roar. They whisper. They don't stand against you. They stand beside you. And while the weak are busy looking for enemies outside the gates, the wise man studies those already inside his circle. Because betrayal doesn't begin with a dagger. It begins with a compliment. In every lifetime, you will meet 5 kinds of people. The 5 shadows Machiavelli warned against. They wear different faces, but they all move with the same intention: to feed on your trust, your ambition, and your belief that goodness is safety. He saw them in the courts of Florence. You'll see them in the corridors of companies, friendships, and families. They are timeless, and if you fail to recognize them, they'll consume you the same way they consumed kings. Let's expose them one by one. First one is the envious friend, the silent assassin of success. The first shadow doesn't attack your weakness. They attack your strength. The envious friend hides behind support, applause, and fake admiration. They celebrate your victories, but their smile tightens when you rise too far. Envy, Machiavelli said, is the emotion of those who see in others what they can never become. It doesn't destroy instantly, it corrodes quietly. Look at Julius Caesar again. His assassins weren't enemies. They were allies who couldn't tolerate his greatness. Brutus loved him, yes. But love and envy can exist in the same heart, until one kills the other. The envious friend studies your moves. They remember your failures better than your triumphs. And when the world turns against you, they won't defend you. They'll agree with the world, pretending to be neutral. You'll find them in your closest circles. Colleagues who hide behind compliments, friends who joke about your ambition, partners who say, "Don't change too much." Machiavelli would say, "He who causes another to become powerful ruins himself." Because the one you lift with generosity will someday resent the hand that proved they were smaller. To protect yourself, keep your success private, your plans invisible, and your victories understated. Envy feeds on visibility. Starve it with silence. The number 2 is the moral pretender, the saint who sins in secret. The second shadow wears a halo. They speak of justice, kindness, equality, and always take the moral high ground. But beneath the surface, their morality is just another mask of control. Machiavelli saw this everywhere. Priests who preached humility while craving power, nobles who disguised greed with virtue. He wrote, "A prince must learn how not to be good, and use goodness only when it serves the purpose." The moral pretender weaponizes guilt. They make you feel wrong for being ambitious, selfish for being strategic, cruel for protecting yourself. But notice this, they never apply those morals to themselves, only to you. They want to cage your instinct, not their own. In history, these were the reformers who condemned decadence publicly, but indulged in private. In modern times, they're the colleagues who shame you for ruthlessness, but take credit for your work. They thrive by appearing righteous because moral superiority gives them the one thing they crave: leverage. To counter them, you must master Machiavelli's duality, appear moral, act strategic, project light, think in shadows. The moral pretender only wins when you defend yourself emotionally. The Machiavellian never defends. He observes, smiles, and lets results silence hypocrisy. The 3 number is the chronic victim, the emotional parasite. Some predators don't use strength. They use weakness. And their weapon isn't power, it's pity. This is the chronic victim, the master of emotional manipulation. They appear harmless, fragile, misunderstood, unlucky. But behind their tears lies a mind that knows exactly how to drain others without ever appearing guilty. They'll make you feel responsible for their sadness. They'll say, "You're the only one who understands me." And slowly, you'll start carrying their emotional weight as your own. Machiavelli would have seen them as a political parasite, those who rise by attaching themselves to stronger hosts. He warned rulers to beware those who seek favor through tears, because pity is a dangerous currency. Once you buy it, you can never stop paying. The chronic victim doesn't want solutions. They want dependence, because if they solved their pain, they'd lose their power. You'll know you're dealing with one when your compassion becomes exhaustion, when you feel guilty for protecting your own peace. The antidote is cold clarity. Recognize that empathy must have limits, or it becomes enslavement. As Machiavelli implied, mercy without boundaries breeds manipulation. Detach with calmness. Let their drama die of starvation, not confrontation. The 4th one is the opportunist, the trader of loyalty. This one is the chameleon. They adapt, align, and switch sides the moment it benefits them. The opportunist doesn't believe in loyalty. They believe in momentum. They're loyal to whoever looks like they're winning. History is filled with them. During the Italian wars, entire families switched allegiances overnight, betraying one prince to serve another. And Machiavelli observed this with disgusted precision. He wrote that men are faithful while you favor them, and as long as danger is far off. The opportunist studies the balance of power like a weather forecast. If you rise, they cheer for you. If you stumble, they fade into neutrality, or worse, ally with your rival. They thrive in every hierarchy, workplaces, families, even friendships, because they wear the mask of adaptability. They call it just being practical. But what it really is cowardice with strategy. To deal with the opportunist, never give them more information than necessary. Keep them close enough to watch, but never close enough to trust. Feed their ambition when it serves you, and when it doesn't, cut ties fast. Machiavelli's advice applies perfectly here. Men must either be treated kindly or destroyed, for they can avenge light injuries, but not grave ones. Don't argue with an opportunist. Outplay them. The last is the silent rival, the one who waits. And then there's the final shadow, the one most never see until it's too late. The silent rival, the watcher, the calm one who studies you, admires you, and learns from you, until they don't need you anymore. They're not openly hostile. They won't criticize you, won't envy you aloud. They'll observe every strength, every flaw, every blind spot. And when you least expect it, when you're relaxed or trusting and open, they move. It's how Octavian destroyed Mark Antony. He pretended to be the naive successor, patient, humble, supportive. Antony underestimated him, thinking him harmless. But Octavian was learning, quietly stacking power, until one day he erased Antony's name from Rome's memory and became Augustus Caesar. That's the art of the silent rival. They never compete openly. They grow in your shadow. Machiavelli advised rulers, never permit another to grow powerful enough to challenge you. That doesn't mean destroy everyone. It means control the ladder. Be aware of who's climbing because of you. And if they do, make sure they owe their position entirely to your favor, never their own merit. To survive among silent rivals, you must be even more silent. Let observation replace reaction. Know their intentions before they even form them. Power belongs not to the loud, but to the invisible. At first glance, these 5 shadows seem different. But if you look closely, you'll see one shared trait: self-interest disguised as sincerity. The envious friend hides resentment. The moral pretender hides control. The chronic victim hides manipulation. The opportunist hides cowardice. And the silent rival hides ambition. They all feed on one thing: your belief in honest intention. That's why Machiavelli never taught men to trust people. He taught them to trust patterns. He studied the repetition in human behavior, not the promises in human speech. Because when you know the pattern, betrayal stops being a shock. It becomes a forecast. You'll meet these shadows today in digital form. The envious friend scrolling your life on social media. The moral pretender posting virtue while living the opposite. The chronic victim broadcasting pain for sympathy. The opportunist changing values to match popularity. The silent rival watching quietly, copying your path, waiting for your fall. Same psychology, new platforms, and yet the lesson hasn't changed since the Renaissance. Those who trust easily are consumed quickly. Now you've seen the shadows for what they are. But Machiavelli would tell you, awareness alone isn't power. Power begins when you transform that awareness into strategy. The next step isn't about fearing people. It's about mastering the art of perception, seeing motives before words, emotions before actions, betrayal before it breathes. In the next chapter, we turn inward, to forge the Machiavellian mind, to learn the art of emotional detachment, strategic empathy, and controlled ruthlessness. Because the goal isn't to trust no one, it's to become the one who cannot be deceived.